The Fist of Hive Primus is the largest Goliath enclave on Necromunda, and Ajex Gorgoth is its master. One of the 8 alphas of Hive Primus, he serves over-tyrant Varan Gore by ruling the manufactorums, slave pits, fighting arenas and forges of the Fist. Unlike his counterparts in other clan houses, Ajex is far from some middling bureaucrat or hive overseer content to live his life counting quotas and gathering up the tithe chits. The Lord of the Fist is a far more hands-on master, either fighting in the House of Pain, the Fist's largest fighting pit, or descending into the Underhive to expand the territories of the clan and gather slaves for its factories. Ajex's long and bloody history began in the forge pits of Vat City, gathering up molten slag spilled from the great weapon presses. A Natborn, Ajex's cunning was apparent even then, the future alpha using cast-off metal to fashion his own weapons. Over the following years, Ajex fought his way up to lead the Forge Lords gang, augmenting his body with homemade bionics and blades, including replacing his nose when it was bitten off in a fight. His powered armour is something he fashioned himself, the weight far beyond what most normal fighters could hope to carry. Fed on dirty promethium, it emits clouds of greasy black smoke, but also gives his servoclaw the strength to rip off an ambot's head. Ajex eventually became the ruler of the Fist when he defeated its previous alpha, whose skull he still carries around on a trophy rack fixed to his back. Varan Gore is watching Ajex's career with great interest, lest Gore's skull also end up adorning the alpha's armour. Hello and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. My name is Damon and this is the series where I delve into all of the agents and dramatis personae in the game of Necromunda. Now I have done a separate series on hired guns. The agents are slightly different in the mechanics and the way that they actually work in the game. But before I get into this, please do like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon and support the channel any way that you can. Also comment down below if you've used any of these dramatis personae in your games of Necromunda. This one I must say I haven't, and I don't actually own the model either, so I'm going off the rules and the law alone on this one. But this is one of the very many Goliath special characters or dramatis personae that you have available in miniature form, which is fantastic if you're a Goliath player. Some of the other gangs aren't quite so well supported in terms of the miniatures. Goliath, however, seem to have so many dramatis personae and miniatures available through Forge World and in plastic. This one is a pretty good looking model, if I'm honest. Let's just take a look at it. Absolute hulking brute of a guy. I'm not actually sure how big this miniature is in person because I haven't actually seen it yet in the flesh, but it certainly looks very big and imposing in the picture here. We have a typical sort of Goliath trappings sort of guy, but however his armor, his plate powered armor is just absolutely massive, making him even bigger. We've got a sort of cloak of chains, a giant Mohican, bigger than all the other Goliaths, a giant chainsword in one hand, which is a unique weapon to Ajex, as well as the powered servo claw in the right hand there as well, which looks very much like a sort of 40k power fist as well, I must say, with the skull of the alpha that he beat over the shoulder there as well. Pretty cool looking model. I must say it's one of the more attractive Goliath models if you ask me. However, I'm not massively into the Goliath aesthetic generally anyway, but it's definitely one of the better ones, I think. So if you're to petition this guy in your games, of course he doesn't have a set cost. He goes from 100 to 200 credits respectively, depending on what your agent petition roll is. If you get that particularly low roll, then you get to hire him for 100 credits, which is very much worth it. If you get the sort of mediocre roll, then you get him for 200 credits, which still, I think he's certainly better than 200 credits worth, I must say. Now, it's worth saying, as this is the first in the series, that because of the mechanics around agents and the fact that you have to petition them and they have variable cost. Now, in the book of the Outcast, it does sort of state that you can use any fighter profile as a leader in your Outcast gangs, and I would say that you can use any of the agents too. It's just fairly ambiguous as to how you go about doing that, and various arbitrators that I know do this in different ways. Now, you could, quickly, you could just go with the more expensive cost of 200 credits, but generally speaking, most of these agents are definitely undercosted even at that more expensive price. That's my 2 cents on it, because I did use Clovis as a leader for 200 credits. He was far too cheap, I'll be honest. Or you could go with the sort of base cost of an Outcast generic leader and then try and total up some of the equipment and war gear. The difficulty with that, though, is that a lot of the war gear and equipment that comes on these guys is unique to that fighter and doesn't actually have a cost on the trading post. So a lot to think about there. I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but because this is the first in the series, I thought I might just highlight that, because when I am going to talk about these guys and using them as Outcast leaders, which is definitely doable, just ask your arbitrator as to how you might go about that in the actual list building process, and you know, try not to undercost them too much, as they are definitely very, very powerful generally. So that's something to think about. Anyway, Ajax Gorgoth, let's look at the stats now. For, like I said, 100 credits and 200 credits respectively, I think he's worth it for both of those, most definitely. As an agent, he is an interesting one. He's certainly not the absolute best Goliath one in the game, but he's certainly up there. Let's look at the stats now, though. He's got a movement of 4, a weapon skill of 2+, which is obviously fantastic, and a ballistic skill of 5+, which is not so great at all. This guy is definitely a close combat fighter. We have a strength of 5, which is very high, a toughness of 4, and 3 wounds, which is great. We have an initiative of 3 up and 4 attacks, which is awesome. In terms of the mental stats, we have a leadership 8+, cool 5+, willpower 6+, intelligence 7+. So not the smartest guy. Now, obviously, because this guy comes with a little bit of war gear, the first thing that he comes with is heavy Carapace armor. Now, heavy Carapace armor does give you some negatives. It does give you a fantastic saving throw of a 3 up, which is very nice indeed. But it does come with a few caveats, and those being the movement and initiative stats are decreased by 1, meaning that Ajex Gorgoth is a very slow 3 inches, and his initiative goes from a 3+ to a 4+. So bear that in mind when you're using this guy, because he is technically only movement 3 with average initiative there as well. The initiative is not so much of a problem. The movement 3, however, certainly can be. Now, in terms of skills, though, we've got Bull Charge, Immovable Stance, and Naga. Immovable Stance and Naga are both muscle skills. Bull Charge is a brawn skill. Bull Charge is fantastic. It gives +1 to strength on the charge, and also knockback to your attacks as well, meaning that your already high strength of 5 goes even higher, and when you combine that with the Servo Claw and the Chainsword, it's pretty nice in terms of the strength value, that's for sure. Immovable Stance is pretty cool as well. For a double action, you get +2 to your save, making your save a 2 up anyway, and also you cannot be moved by knockback or even pinned at all. However, it is a double action to do this, so you're wasting your own activations to just stand there and hope that you don't get hit by a las cannon or something. It's a bit of a weird one. It's quite situational, but it's also quite good in some sort of situations, I suppose. We've also got Naga as well, which is one of the better sort of muscle skills, where you can take a toughness check to basically get an extra action, and then you go prone, I believe, at the end of the action. It's pretty good. It's nice to have on a guy that's so slow as well. Ogrins certainly benefit from that skill, I must say. In terms of the weapon, we've got the powered Servo Claw and the Great Chainsword with a stub gun, I believe. Now, the powered Servo Claw is very similar to your ordinary Servo Claw. However, it is +1 strength on the generic Servo Claw. There's no AP on it. It's 2 damage, and it's +3 strength. So Ajex Gorgoth with his strength 5, +3 is strength 8, using Bull Charge, strength 9, and knockback on the charge with 2 damage. It's pretty nice, but the fact that it's got no AP does have its own problems, I suppose, certainly later on in a campaign when everyone's got Carapace armor and undersuits. The Great Chainsword is like a chainsword, however it is slightly longer and bigger. It does not get the +1 to hit that a normal chainsword gets. In fact, it gets -1 to hit in close combat. However, it does have a 1-inch versatile range on it as well, similar to a greatsword, which is pretty good. 1 inch doesn't buy you a lot, but it does add that extra 1 inch to your already dismal movement there, meaning that you've got a slightly longer threat range than what you have normally. It does have rending, and it does have, I believe, -2 AP or -1 AP, I'm not sure. But that's the Great Chainsword and the powered Servo Claw. They're not amazing weapons, I have to say, because they don't deal a hell of a lot of damage, but they are very high strength, obviously combined with his already high strength there as well. And of course we've got the heavy carapace armor that I've already highlighted, and a respirator as well. So this guy, he's pretty good. He is not the guy with the 2 hammers, what's his face. He is absolutely the cream of the crop when it comes to Goliath special characters and dramatis personae, but for an agent, this guy certainly isn't bad. Does he really offer your Goliath gangs anything that you don't already have? I don't think he's quite as good as a stimmer most of the time. So if you've got a stimmer in your gang, then you know this guy's not offering you a lot. However, you could use him as just a sort of absolute roadblock to just stand there and do that double action of immovable stance every now and then. I'm not sure how handy that's going to be, but like on objectives and stuff, you can probably just sit him on an objective and just be a tank for a while. But I have to say, the movement of 3, I don't think they've really thought about heavy carapace armor here, and it hasn't been taken into account. So the movement 3 is a real problem for this guy, I have to say. However, I still think he's worth it. He's certainly going to rip things up in close combat with strength 9 on the ball charge. So it's nice. It's absolutely nice. And again, you can find the rules for this guy in the House of Chains book. For the Goliath special characters and whatnot, and yeah, he's decent. He's not amazing, he's not world changing, and he doesn't really offer anything new to a Goliath gang. Are my only real concerns there. Obviously, the main thing I've highlighted is that low movement being a bit of a problem, I have to say. But that's it for Ajax Gorgoth. Anyway, it's a cool model. Of course, you could use this guy as just a generic sort of Goliath leader or something like that, and he'd probably be better most of the time, to be honest, because you could give him slightly more optimal skills and maybe a slightly different build to make him a little bit more fun. But yeah, it is what it is. That's Ajex Gorgoth, and I'll be back with the next video real soon. Peace out.